So what happens is, and in fact, I may have a thing to show you guys. I go to the state capitol. This is in 2016. And I present to the state capitol. Maybe I don't have these videos. I present to the state capitol the governor, then the governor, Maggie Hassan. I present to her the hard drives of the tapes. And I believe she gave it to the Attorney General. And as I'm walking into the building there, a man walks up to me who I think is a fan, wants to take a picture with me. And this man is wearing a green vest, and he has a document, and he hands me a criminal grand jury subpoena. He hands me a subpoena. This is in 2016. The man's name was Dick Tracy. And the man who did this to me in 2016, and that's another story for another day, but that was a big, big story in 2012, was Dick Head, Richard Head. So Dick Tracy hands me the criminal grand jury, your investigator, I think he's an investigator in the AG's office. Dick Tracy hands me the criminal subpoena, and eventually the matter gets dropped. The matter goes away in April of 2016. Okay? With me so far? Two times, 2012, 2016, in your state, I'm threatened with criminal prosecution for reporting on fraud done by the people in your state. I'm not sure why that is the case, but we live in Orwellian times, we live in strange times, but even that is something that's incredible. But now let's fast forward to this week, okay? Fast forward 3 years to Wednesday, that is 3 days ago, here in Concord, New Hampshire. This man, whose name is Robert Bell, is a resident of New Hampshire. He is someone who moved here from Florida a few years ago. His ex-wife still lives in Florida, and he still has his Florida driver's license. This man, after Project Veritas spent a lot of time going through voter records, we went through a lot of data from Florida and New Hampshire, and we found people who both voted in Florida and who also voted in New Hampshire in your 2018 general election. That is 3 crimes. Number 1 is a Florida state crime. You cannot vote in Florida if you're not a resident of Florida. Number 2, it is a federal felony to vote twice in the general elections. And number 3, and most importantly, it is a New Hampshire state crime. In this state, you cannot vote twice. You cannot vote in New Hampshire and also in another state. That's a Class B felony in New Hampshire. This man, Robert Bell, admits it to us. After a lot of work we did, we tracked him down, went to his house, talked to him, went to Florida. We went to Florida, went to his address there, talked to his people, got the confession, went back, did all this work. This sort of investigative journalism thingy that NBC News is supposed to do. We did it, and we got him to admit it. We got him to admit to a Class B felony in New Hampshire, but don't take my word for it. Let's listen to the man himself.
He should not be voting anymore in Florida.
Robert Bell's ex-wife is shocked. What you're about to see is a man who admits to breaking Florida, New Hampshire, and federal laws by voting twice.
Yeah, I was down there for a funeral, and so I voted in early voting.
Oh, you early voted in Florida in 2018, and then you voted in person in the polls here in New Hampshire?
Yeah, I guess I did.
The man is confessing. Video doesn't lie.
Because we go to the Board of Elections to verify our data, and it had that he voted here in person.
Like early voting.
Like for the last 3 elections.
So he's still voting in Florida?
That's what it said. That's what they told us.
Do you happen to also have a residence in Florida?
I used to.
They still were able to let you vote down there in Florida in 18?
Yeah, I was still on the voter list.
ProjectVeritas.com/ So he was still on the voter lists down there, on the voter list here, there was no cross-check. So he confesses. The New Hampshire Union leader on Tuesday afternoon, Yvonne worked with the reporter there, Todd, and the New Hampshire Union leader called Mr. Bell, and he confessed it to the New Hampshire Union leader. So not only is he saying it on our videotape, he actually told it to your newspaper. And I think that reporter was probably a little shocked when he heard that. He's like, I thought he would be angry at O'Keefe. No, but he confessed the crime to the New Hampshire Union leader. We actually confronted the man. When I say confront, we walked up to his door, spent a minute at his door to try to get a comment from him.
But we're about to approach.
Walked up to him. He came out. He got really angry at me.
Excuse me, you're interrupting a telephone call. Now go away.
You voted twice. It's a crime. Why did you break the law?
It is a crime to vote twice. And yes.
It's illegal to film me here, so I will report you all to the police.
Please do, sir. It's also illegal to vote twice. So we had the camera visible. It was a massive television camera on the shoulder. We were also carrying the camera. Keep in mind, he also walked back out twice to talk to me in New Hampshire. So that's very interesting. So here's what happened. This is where the storytelling part comes in, because you all have so many questions. So story comes out. Story is on the front page of the Union Leader. There it is. Project Veritas targets Atkinson man. Targets man. I don't know why they target man. The man targeted your voter system by voting twice. I'm reporting on what the guy did. And he actually admitted it. But in any event, so the story comes out. We go to meet with Bill Gardner. That's me. This is actually Tuesday afternoon. And I walk into the Secretary of State's office with my executive producer with the videotape of the man confessing to the felony. And the Secretary of State's office makes a phone call to the Attorney General's office and says, you know, maybe they ought to come by. Who was the person that they called on the other end of the line? Ann Edwards at the Attorney General's office, and says, you may want to see this. So we walk over across the street to the Attorney General's office, and in the lobby there is another man. His name is John Sullivan. He seems like he's had a busy day, and he says, okay, well, I accept walk-ins. What's the issue? And he says, okay, I'll try to take a look at it. We walk away. 10 minutes later, we get a phone call from I believe it was Ann Edwards in the Attorney General's office. Please come back here right now. Okay. Sounds like Mr. Smith goes to Washington. I'm going to go back to the Attorney General's office and show him the dirty deeds. We go back to the Attorney General's office, and I sit down with these two men. The man on what would be the right is John Sullivan, an investigator, and the man on the left is a name who escapes me, but one of the other investigators there. And as I sit here, there is a piece of paper in the man on the right. You can't see it, but there's a piece of paper that's in his notebook that was already there when I walked in. Didn't know what it was. He had a notebook. I thought they were interested in watching the video, and I showed them the full 10-minute version. I showed them the extended cut of the man admitting this. And as I'm sitting there, they start asking questions about me and about Project Veritas and about filming in New Hampshire and these sorts of things. And my producer, who took this photograph, was answering those questions. And so I show them the whole video, and as soon as I'm done showing them the whole video, the first thing they do is hand me a grand jury subpoena. They hand me a grand jury subpoena. And the grand jury subpoena says, oh, by the way, these are the names. A lot of people say, what are the names of people? Well, there are the names. You can write them down. Robert Freitas, investigator. Robert Sullivan, investigator in the AG's office. And the subpoena says, quote, you are required to appear before a grand jury in Hillsborough County. I have no idea. Why are they making me appear in Hillsborough County if the man who voted twice is in Atkinson? He's in Rockingham County. So what's that about? Why are they making me appear before a grand jury in a county I don't even think I've been to in three and a half years? So they give me this subpoena, and it says to testify what you know related to a, quote, investigation by the grand jury into the operations of Project Veritas, close quote. Have they delivered a subpoena to the man who voted twice? Again, I'm used to this sort of thing in the Garden State and the Empire State. Live free or die. Okay. So we go to interview with WMUR, which is a little interesting anecdote. I think it's central to the question. I get interviewed by, this is John D'Anastasio, and this is what happened to the...
Do you have any idea why they served the subpoena?
No, but here's a copy of the subpoena. It says that it's from Hillsborough County, which is, we did some investigative work 3 years ago into the Bernie Sanders campaign here in New Hampshire. They're trying to criminalize actually reporting facts and breaking truth. They would prefer us not do what we did, but had we not done what we did, no one would know about Mr. Bell. This is the third time that I have come to New Hampshire and faced criminal grand jury subpoenas for exposing things, and each and every time this happens, they drop the subpoena and this goes away.
New Hampshire is a two.
So there's an interesting moment in the conversation in this television interview, which did not air, by the way. And my guy was filming it, and he asked me, but New Hampshire, you need the permission from the other person that you film, right? Isn't it a crime? Well, I said, well, if the camera's visible, if the camera's out in the open, and there's no expectation of privacy, I mean, you guys are filming me right now. I mean, Granite Grok, I didn't ask for consent. You're filming this here in New Hampshire, which is a two-party consent state to film. Yes. But you were doing it before you asked. And then this reporter asked me this question.
Two-party consent state. Do you feel that when you went to him, you were within the law?
It's a two-party consent state, but you're filming me right now. So as long as the camera is visible, you guys are filming me right now in a two-party consent state to film. So what's the difference between what I'm doing and what you're doing? The camera was visible on the show.
That was the camera as we walked up to the guy. They sent me a subpoena. Can you believe this? This is unbelievable. I mean, this is truly extreme. This is the most preposterous, crazy thing I have ever seen. And I've been incarcerated. I've been sued. I've been, George Stephanopoulos asked if I'm like a white supremacist live on ABC News. I mean, you name it, I've been through it. I mean, and this is just an absurdity beyond all absurdities, because we have a camera that's the size of me filming me with a flag mic at the door of Robert Bell.
Just like it is here right now. I'm standing in New Hampshire, you're filming me. Should the New Hampshire Attorney General subpoena you for filming me right now?
So WMUR did not air this interview. I don't know why not. I don't know why not. What's that? Maybe they thought they broke the law. Maybe everyone's going to get subpoenas. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
Croc TV.